Good evening. I hope you're having a happy hump day on this March 4th, 2026. If you want to go and take a ride with me, like that song goes, take a little bit of a ride home as I talk. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about a movie that I have not mentioned in any capacity, featuring a great star and producer and filmmaker from the era, still active, not as active as he was at this particular point in time, but it's certainly, we will add it to the great movies series. It is a fantastic film, and is the sort of film that I believe will be timeless, because it was a product of its time. It was a movie that was made in a very particular point in history. Like, it was not an accident that this movie came out at this time, but the story that it tells from a broader sense is applicable to any time, because it deals with job security, it deals with existential crises. What am I doing here? What if this is all there is? The star at its center is George Clooney, who had won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar a few years earlier for Syriana, and had gotten widespread acclaim for a film from, I want to say, the same year as Syriana, that he starred in, or co-starred in, and directed, called Good Night and Good Luck, basically about the Red Scare, the McCarthy hearings, and McCarthyism in general. And I get to use my favorite word again. And what happens if high-ranking people in the government have it out for you? How can you fight back? Can you fight back? Or do you just have to be under the thumb of the evil government? Usually you have to be under the thumb, and you are under the thumb of the evil government. But this film was released towards the end of the year of 2009. And George Clooney stars as somebody who at a different time in history would have probably been referred to as an efficiency expert. But his job now is not that. His job is not figuring out methods and processes of corporate downsizing. We're going to use a lot of great catchphrases here. At a certain point in time, somebody with his skill sets would have been brought in to figure out, how can we cut middle management from 800 people to 642 without harming the function of the company? And you ask yourself a legitimate question. Well, if that's the case, why did all those people have jobs in the first place if you can cut 158 and not bat a fucking eyelash? Good question. So he does not play an efficiency expert. He plays a hatchet man. He's the guy who goes around the country, not exactly firing people, but letting people know that they are fired, by way of saying, your position is no longer available at this company. But the good news is, I've got a little booklet for you to help you transition, right? We love that word too. Help you transition to your next job. And you'll get some severance pay and maybe some stock options. We'll schmear you a little bit, whatever nonsense, because not everybody gets the exact same run-up, setup, payoff. It depends on the company. So Ryan Bingham, as played by George Clooney, and it's for sure one of his 5 best performances, he's comfortable in his life. And there was an idea, and there still is an idea, even as Clooney is much older now. He's almost a senior citizen. I don't get it, but too many different people have told similar stories for it to not be true. There's an understanding, there are certain guys in Hollywood over the generations that were considered incredibly physically attractive, but they didn't necessarily cause problems just by their physical attractiveness and charisma. Like, there's not much in the way of Brad Pitt ruining stuff because he's Brad Pitt. There are a lot of stories, though, of people flipping out because George Clooney is in their midst. And I don't really get it, but George Clooney has played characters where you could say to yourself, no matter how bad it gets for this guy, he's still George Clooney. He's still George Clooney. Fuck it all. That's my guy, right? So, the movie Michael Clayton, one of his best performances from 2007. As bad as the shit gets, he's still George Clooney. He's still going to be okay. He's going to be fine. So in this movie, he doesn't really hate his job. He's somebody who loves air travel. And again, not to get political, but in the post 9/11 Richard Reed shoe bomber, take your fucking shoes off at the airport era, I don't know that many people that really like to travel, but I don't like everything that goes along with air travel. Ryan Bingham, great name, his character is okay with it. He enjoys it. He is a frequent flyer, and he's closing in. I mean, it's so stupid. He's closing in on a milestone where he's going to be able to meet this kind of legendary pilot, a Chesley Sullenberger kind of a guy. He's going to be able to fly with this guy and get his wings because he'll have 1,000,000 miles or something like that. So he is single. He has some family that he's modestly close with, that he's not really estranged from them. And he's on this, what Alec Baldwin might call a mission of mercy, but he's on this series of trips, and he has a couple of young people with him who he is training to I hate to say to take over for him or to continue to do what he does. It's so ghastly, but more or less that's what it is. And the primary person he is training is played by Anna Kendrick in a very early role for her. I think it's before the first Pitch Perfect, but if it's not, I apologize, but it's in that ballpark. And Anna Kendrick was nominated for supporting actress. So Ryan Bingham is happily single. I don't know that I would necessarily classify him as a womanizer. I feel like that might be a little bit harsh, but he is somebody who quite clearly enjoys the company of women, and they enjoy the company of him. No jokes, no cap, whatever. But he's comfortable in his life of flying around, making good money, not spending it foolishly. We get the idea that when he's ready to retire, he's going to have money, and he could, do nice things for the family if something comes up, give his sister a great wedding present, whatever the case might be. He's comfortable in his life. In the words of Clint Eastwood in the movie Bridges of Madison County, in an entirely different context, but the thought is similar. He's a loner, but he's not a monk. He is somebody who is very okay spending most of his life alone, but you get the sense he's not lonely. This is not a depressive character. And because it's Clooney, it's easier to sell what I just said, because it's him. And yes, Brad Pitt could have played this part, but you can think of other interesting actors of the era where there would be no way to do what I just said and have the audience say, no, he's fine. Yeah, he's okay. Like if it's Ryan Gosling as a younger version, it's going to be brooding, he's going to be miserable, it's different. If it's young Paul Newman, same thing. So as part of his bouncing around, he meets a woman played by Vera Farmiga, who, I know this is a cliche, she was everywhere in this era. She had been in The Departed, terrific with Matt Damon and Leo. I didn't buy her romances in that movie. I'm sorry. I think The Departed is the weakest film that Scorsese ever made. It's still a good movie. Marty never missed, but I don't think that movie was anywhere near. I don't even have it in Scorsese's top 10. She registers very strongly in that film, though. So she plays a woman named Alex. And she's the female version of George Clooney's Ryan Bingham. She presents herself as a single lady. I guess she's supposed to be about the same age as George. And George, at this particular time, was 46, 47. I think he's supposed to be playing his age. Like, he's not playing younger or older. His hair had gone gray for years. We know this. She is supposed to be maybe slightly younger. Let's just say she's 40, late 30s. This is not an inappropriate pairing. Now, if the movie is about George Clooney getting with Anna Kendrick, that's different, but that's not this movie. He is in a mentor capacity to her. And it's actually a very kind of wholesome dynamic, in my opinion, just my opinion, that develops between them as the story unfolds. So Vera Farmiga's character of Alex is single, and she also is alone frequently, but not lonely. She enjoys the company of men, but she doesn't need men. She doesn't need a family of her own to be content. She's flying around, not doing the same as Ryan Bingham, but she's flying around, she's doing her thing, and the two of them have instant really intense chemistry. And not to, again, be cynical, but they really look like they were enjoying it. And there are times in movies where you don't want to speculate, yeah, these people had an affair, whatever, you know, Ali McGraw, Steve McQueen in The Getaway, yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, look what happened when the movie ended. But the chemistry between the two of them is palpable. And it's been said that George, because he's George Clooney, he could have chemistry with a table. He's just one of those guys. He's so affable, and he just has the effortless charisma. Even in a film like I've talked about, From Dusk Till Dawn, we should hate his character of Seth Gecko. We should despise him, but we just can't, because it's George fucking Clooney. He just had the magic. He has the magic. So the two of them meet cute in an airport lounge, or, you know, whatever it is, and they start a romance, which is not, it's more like a series of hookups, but it feels like a romance. And one minor piece of this movie that I like, because I think the film is 4 stars, but there is a tiny little detail that I think was not an accident. I think it was deliberate, just for eggheads like me to pick up on. The character played by Anna Kendrick, her first name is Natalie. Her last name is Keener. Now that doesn't really mean anything. When I started thinking about that name, and what I drew from that is that the character played by Vera Farmiga, if this movie had been made a decade earlier, if this movie had been made in the Being John Malkovich era, I believe that character would be played by Catherine Keener, the actress. Catherine Keener played femme fatale, rhymes with witch, very, very difficult women, quote unquote, but played very tough, hard-edged, cynical, you might even say angry, female characters. Catherine Keener did it brilliantly. In her older era, there's a little bit more of an arch to it. There's a little bit more in the way of humor, and we saw what she did so beautifully in Get Out. Catherine Keener, a great actress. But I feel like the name of Anna Kendrick's character being Natalie Keener, I feel like the filmmaker, was it Gilroy? It was not an accident. And I'm telling you, Catherine Keener is playing this part if this movie is made 10 years prior. So, just my opinion. The surprise of the story, though, and yes, there is an enormous plot twist toward the end. There is a big plot twist towards the end of the film which takes us by surprise. But the movie seems to be making the argument that Ryan Bingham is content. He's happy. He loves his job, or at least he loves the trappings of the job. He's okay not falling in love. He may want to have a woman that he sees on the regular, but not any further than that. Somebody that they'll have great sex, and maybe when they're together in an airport lounge, they can go get some dinner and do some limited couple things. All good. But at a certain point in the film, Ryan Bingham is no longer, in his mind, just hooking up with Alex. He's falling in love. And the subtle ways that Clooney shows us this, it's easy to underrate him as an actor because he has the whole Cary Grant thing down pat, and because he does have the smile and the charisma. But he shows us this guy is starting to not become immune. And there is a difference between a man who enjoys the company of a woman in particular and a man who is about to be really fucked, no pun intended, because he's in love with her and she hasn't really said to him that she feels anything other than, you're a great lay, I think you're hot as hell, boy. Well, what happens? Even if you look like George Clooney in 2009, even if you're this guy who's got money, is living exactly the life he wants, and now suddenly out of nowhere, it's not good enough, and you want more. And I won't spoil it. This is a really, really strong movie. Great performances across the board. And it doesn't go the way that you expect. And I'll just say, to an even greater extent than what happens in Michael Clayton. And the other thing with Michael Clayton, Denzel Washington. Denzel's name comes up a lot because you had certain big actors who were up for a lot of different roles at the same time. Denzel Washington was asked, and this is the kind of question you love to hear big stars get asked, are there any projects that you passed on and wish that you could just see how it would have gone with you in it, or something? You don't have to always ask the question the same way. And Denzel said, actually, he got excited. He liked the question. Maybe he doesn't get asked that often. He said there's actually only two. One was Seven. And he quickly pointed out, when it was offered, think about the time, we're talking 1990s, in the mid-90s. He said, I would have been playing the Brad Pitt role, not the Morgan Freeman role. Believe it or not, it was Al Pacino who they were talking about for what became the Morgan Freeman role. Man, that would have been a riot. I don't know how that would have worked with Pacino in his era where all he was doing was screaming and yelling, but man, that could have been epic. He's got the upper hand! He's an absentee little... Oh, he could have done the whole thing from Devil's Advocate, 2 years earlier. But the other project that Denzel said, I'm kind of sorry I gave it up, Michael Clayton. He was offered Michael Clayton first, and he gave it to George Clooney. He said some words to the effect of, George, I kind of like you for this. I don't really think this is for me. What do you think? And Clooney loved it. So in Michael Clayton, you go just about as far as you can, seeing in how deep of doo-doo George Clooney's character Michael Clayton can go, where we still wish we could be this guy. That movie stretches it to its limit, but I don't believe that it cracks it. I don't believe that it breaks it. There is a moment in the movie Up in the Air that takes Clooney further than he had been in this kind of context, in this sort of role, where he's a lady killer, he's got money, he's got charm to spare. And he hits his Waterloo in this movie. And it's great acting. It's great work. You see it. It's written all over him. And Up in the Air is a movie that did not cost a ton to produce. I don't know, I'm not really, and I wasn't up on these things in particular in this era, but George, I don't believe, got anywhere near what he was commanding for other films in the aughts, like the Coen Brothers' Intolerable Cruelty. I don't know what he got for Syriana. I don't know, because Good Night and Good Luck was made very low budget. Again, when I say very low budget, I mean for having a big star like George in there. But Up in the Air cost about $25 million to produce and grossed $166 worldwide. That is a great gross, especially for an R-rated, adult, very American story. The box office gross was roughly the same in the United States and Europe. And when I say a very American story, in this context, I'm not talking about Clooney. This movie was conceived of and produced as the financial crisis 2007 and going forward, the Great Recession, as that was going on. And that's where I said this movie was made at a very specific, particular point in history. It was made at the point in history where a lot of people were losing their jobs or had lost their jobs. And George Clooney playing a hatchet man, it fed into the paranoia of the time. So the film was an enormous box office success, and it was nominated for 6 Academy Awards. And I should know this. I know that Vera Farmiga and Anna Kendrick were up, but I want to say that Clooney was up for Best Actor, but I'm probably wrong about that. And I think the filmmaker was up for director. It did not win any of the awards that it was up for, which is unfortunate, because this is a great movie. It was one of my father's favorite films. I wouldn't have expected my dad to be like an enormous fan of George Clooney, but he was. Clooney was one of his favorite actors. We went to see The Peacemaker in 97, a movie I talked about on the channel, joked around, if you say it now, people think John Cena, the joke is, the movie Peacemaker, where's John Cena? Well, that's 1997. John Cena's not in that movie. It has nothing to do with the kind of fringe in some quarters, DC superhero. But Up in the Air was a film that was critically lauded in its day, 6 Oscar nominations, enormous box office hit, and showed that Clooney, even while playing a character that was somewhat comfortable and in his wheelhouse, that he was, to some extent, he was fearless. He really went for it. He goes for it. You see it. You feel it. And, you can't really do it better. And I don't accept the idea that Because there are some people that think he's just a shitty actor. I think that's a crock of shit. He can be very funny, as in, the Coen brothers, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I think he's an absolute riot. I think he's a riot in From Dusk Till Dawn. And as an action hero, in action hero mode, he carries that movie. He carries The Peacemaker, holds his own with a great actress in Nicole Kidman in The Peacemaker. His work in The Perfect Storm, fantastic. He really makes you believe he's a goddamn sword boat captain. Just terrific. So many great performances. But this one, to me, slots right in there in the kind of upper tier, top 5, maybe top 3 best George Clooney performances. I'm not sure. I know this movie, it's been on Netflix. I know it was streaming free on Prime. But if you kind of Google it, if you go to one of the apps that shows, which movies, is it on HBO Max or Paramount, Just Watch, one word. I'm pretty sure you could find this movie streaming free on one of the sort of fringe apps. If it's not on any of the main ones like Netflix, Prime, Hulu, HBO Max, or Paramount, it could be on Tubi or Canopy or one of the other ones, Hoopla. But this is a film that I give my highest recommendation. It is an old-fashioned kind of drama with romance elements and some comedy elements. The Anna Kendrick character, Natalie, at certain points, she's the butt of the joke, but then she kind of turns it around. It's a good character for her to play, and I think her Oscar nomination was well deserved. And really that's it. I've spoken now. This is the third George Clooney film that I've gone into, a lot of details. Speaking of From Dusk Till Dawn and The Peacemaker, but he really has had an incredible career. Three Kings, also with Mark Wahlberg, like The Perfect Storm, they worked together again. Just a great, great actor. The film that he did with Sam Rockwell, the Chuck Barris movie, the guy that created The Gong Show. I forgot the name of the movie, but he directed that film. Really, really good. I mean, Sam Rockwell is fucking God, an acting god. You want to talk about a guy who in certain quarters is underrated? I've never seen Sam Rockwell give a bad performance. Like, he's Oscar worthy in everything that he does. Even that film that he did a couple of years ago, the period piece, The Best of Enemies, he is absolutely incredible. But anyway, I digress, as I often do. Up in the Air, a fantastic film released in December of 2009 to qualify for the Oscars, but this was not like Oscar bait. It's just a great movie all the way through. Really interesting characters, an interesting study of a particular time in history when the roof caved in and the bottom fell out of the United States economy and economies around the world. But there were still some people that were making a lot of money because they were doing this kind of work, where they're not going to get fired. They're going to go around, and other companies and wimps who are too afraid to fire their own people are going to hire this guy to let somebody know that their position is no longer available at this company. Up in the Air from 2009, the newest entry in our continuing series of the great movies. I'll spare you the extended wrap-up. I hope that you have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you all again real soon. Peace.